Hello you lovely lot, and welcome to the beautiful Cudmore Fisheries on probably one of my favourite lakes in the whole wide world. As I say about every single lake, the Arena Lake, you know, it holds lots of special memories for me, and we are doing carp shallow basics today for you folks, because the sun comes out right on cue there, doesn't it? I've got amber slay, I'm all snarled up in it. It's for the last sort of few days it's been proper warm, it's felt like summer, so I thought yes, let's get on the shallow rigs and talk you lovely lot through how we go about catching these great big wobbly carps. There's other species in here as well, there's odd F1, but it's mainly the carp that we're after. So we're going to be going through obviously how we're feeding, the rigs, how we're slapping the rig, the differences between F1 rigs and carp rigs as well. So without further ado, let's go through the rig itself in question. So first things first, elastic wise. Now because we are fishing for carp, that's why I've gone for a slightly heavier elastic than what I do for the norm, you know, for the likes of anything else but carp really folks. So we've gone for a 15s Dura hybrid. Now the beauty of the 15s, it's not overly gun, but it's got enough grunt behind it when you get back to the top kit and you start using the puller kit that it does lock up nice, and you know, wouldn't have any trouble getting carp well into double figures in the net at all. Obviously connecting it wise, I've always used this bead, don't use Dacons anymore. Now the first thing you'll notice, main line is 0.22, so we've got 0.22 AccuPower on here folks, so we're not messing about. You don't need to for carp, you know what I mean? As I say, we're not fishing for anything else but carp, so you can fish sort of like robust gear, robust tackle. So 0.22 main line. Now if you have a look how much line I've got there between pole tip and float, I've got a good sort of maybe 2.5 foot, at least 2.5 foot. Now that right there folks is the main difference between a carp shallow rig and an F1 or anything else shallow rig, in that your float would want to be as close to the pole tip as possible. The beauty of this rig is it's quite flexible in that I can use it as a little babby mugging rig if I need to. You know, I can put all the shots under my float, use it as a little babby flit rig, but this is out and out sort of slapping the rig over, you know, making sure your pole tip's well away from the float, not to spook them carp. So onto the float itself, just a carp shallow float, 4x10s carp shallow float, and I've got I've got 3 number 10 stots underneath the float. I've set this float initially around sort of 16-18 inches, but obviously that'll change in the conditions, and you know, judging where the fish are basically. If you're not getting bites, we're going deeper. If we're getting bites and missing them or foul looking them, this, that and the other, that's when we come shallower. Must be stots as well folks. Don't put shots on, because of obviously they do damage your line if you try and move them. Now every time I move depth, so say we'll put that up sort of another 4 inches, then what I want to do is move the stots as well. Now you can see there I've not damaged the line whatsoever. It might be, certainly yesterday when I was on here folks, I was catching the fish sort of like 12 inches with my shots right under my float. You know, they didn't want that sort of like the weight's taking the bait down, you know what I mean? So they wanted it that nice sort of slow fall, because there was more to mug yesterday, that kind of thing. But starting off wise, still really early in the morning at the minute, I'm going to start off with them shots how they are, so everything's nice and even. Slap the rig over, hold a tight line. Hook length, again, really simple folks. I've just got double overhand loop in there, I'm in main line, and I've got on a 14s KKM, 4 inches to 0.19 line. So again, really strong. There's nothing, I've said it now folks, there's nothing in here that should be snapping that, but they are flipping angry at the minute folks. They're like, the fish is so angry at the minute because spawning is next on the agenda. I think within the next day or two these fish are going to be thinking about spawning, you know, with the temperature, you know, water temperature getting up to sort of like 17 degrees, 16, 17 degrees, that's when they'll think about spawning. But the actual rig itself and the components of it, so simple. Just got one top kit, and that's again the beauty of this style of fishing, carp fishing. One top kit, like a hybrid rig if you like I've got. You know, if I wanted to use it as a mugging rig, I'd put them shots under my float and then mug away. But yeah, that's it. You know, nothing complicated about it. I think without further ado, we need to go and catch some fishes, and I'll quickly talk you through your bait.
Right, you lads, very sorry to interrupt your video watching.
How dare you?
Quickly, if you haven't already noticed, we have managed to write a book, haven't we?
Yes, we have,
Which
Jamie.
is full of all our very bestest methods and features or whatever else we do on this wonderful subject of fishing. So if you haven't had a look already, go and have a look at winningways.shop and buy one for yourself.
Right then folks, it is finally time to go and snare some great big wobbly carps. There's quite a few milling around just under the surface. Obviously the conditions are just bang on for it. A little bit of breeze, a little bit of sun. Now what I want to do when I get out there is talk you through obviously the slapping process and all that. and then where the shadow of your pole is going to end up. Now, if it's windy, there's a bit of a chop on the water, there's a slight breeze on, I don't think it overly matters, especially when the water's that coloured. But if it was flat calm and you're getting that shadow, you don't want to be slapping into your shadow with your pole, so you want to go the opposite way. I'll talk you through more in a bit, folks, but basically, bait-wise, doesn't get more simple than that, does it? Just like, not even 2 pints of 6 mils. I'm not expecting to feed all them, even if I was staying here sort of like for a 5-hour session if I was in a match. The thing with carp fishing, as opposed to everything else shallow fishing, is you don't really need to feed loads. I mean, obviously, if people are feeding loads around you, you know, match conditions, then you've got to keep up with them. But if you're just going for a pleasure session, you don't need to feed loads at all. It's more to do with the noise and the slaps. That's what I really want to focus on today for you folks, yeah? Getting that nice rhythm going with the slapping and the carp come to the noise. And obviously, if you do see them just on the surface, have a bit of a babby go for them, mugging them. But that is all we'll need. So just a few 6 mils. The important thing with 6 mils, obviously, they're quite a heavy bait, so they are going to sink fast, so don't feed loads. Whereas obviously maggots, casters, 4 mils, you can feed sort of like a dozen or more, lots more in maggots and casters. With 6 mils, up to sort of 6, you know, between 4 and 6, that's all I'm going to be feeding. So first thing I'm going to do is just get a few in that catapult and just ping them out. Now I've got a nice bit of white water that I'm going to be fishing into, and that's why I have permanent marking my float black, because you can't beat a black tip on white background. That sounds a bit wrong, but you know what I mean, folks. So first thing I'm going to do, now obviously, colours of pellets, you know, if you're a particular fan of using a red pellet, green pellet, blue pellet, whatever, it's all personal preference, but I'll just like to use just a normal pellet, straight out of the bag, straight on, and there we go. Don't think it matters what size. Obviously an 8mm pellet can work particularly well and all. That extra noise, you know what I mean? I wouldn't tend to feed the 8mm, but feed the 6s and slap an 8mm, that can work particularly well at times. So out we go then. Now, one thing you must do when you're slapping, folks, is check your blooming sections. I've seen it so often. People are stuck into carp at fishing at like 14.5, 16 metres. We're only fishing at 13 today. And for like these sections here to fly off into the middle of a lake, never to be seen again. So make sure you check your sections every time you come back, or every sort of 10, 15 minutes, something like that, because they will work loose. So let's get a bit more bait out. Ping a few pellets out and ship out. So I'm just going to check my sections, even though I've only just put them together, still going to check my sections. So I'm fishing 30 metres onto my dolly butt, bringing my hand through. Now the first thing you notice, my pole is over both my knees. Now I'm using my left leg as like an anchor point, and that's what I'm going to be slapping with, yeah? I'm going to be lifting my leg up to slap. So I'm going to be pulling that pole up to 11 o'clock. I'm going to slap this 3 times initially rather. Now you can see where the shadow of my pole is. It's on that right hand side that I'm slapping into. Now obviously with it being calm, that could make a bit of a difference and put the fish off. I'm just going to try it for a bit. That's my more natural side to slap. That's sort of like left to right, if you like. Obviously the wind's going the other way really strong, I'll be slapping that way. But to start with, I'm just going to slap that way just to see what's happening. Now you'll notice I'm not leaving the rig too long before I slap it over. Literally 10-12 seconds, that's all. Now what I'm trying to do is make sure that my bait is falling through all the time. But you see, I'm not going mad with that catapult, I'm not feeding loads. It's the fact that I'm slapping that is creating the noise and mimicking obviously the bait going in. Yeah, it's so good, folks. Arena lake. Yeah, you're just mimicking that bait going in by the slapping. First thing we want to do, again, I'm talking match conditions now, folks. If you were just pleasure fishing, you just concentrate on bringing this fish back. But if I was in a match, first thing you want to do, get some bait back in. The next thing you want to do is bring this pole back nice and slowly and make sure you unship. You've got to unship 2 times. I always break down, or obviously depend on what pole you've got really. I always break down on my 5 and 6 section, pull back under my arm, and then I feed some more bait. Just obviously again, because I'm always fishing in matches, I want to keep them fish interested, yeah? I don't want anyone else to nick them, yeah? So make sure you keep them interested. The next thing you'll see, play the fish nice and low. These fish are so angry, especially big carp. They are proper angry, so just make sure everything's low all the time. Now the other reason I like to break down twice, obviously I stop first to feed, is because at this stage here, if this fish suddenly goes nuts and I've shipped back all 13 metres, I can't get 13 metres of pole back onto my section and follow it out. Whereas I could now, if this fish suddenly shot out left and right, I can pick my 3 sections up and follow it out, if that makes sense, yeah? But at the minute, it's not too bad. And if you wanted to, you were confident, again, you could carry on feeding. Again, this is exactly what I'll be doing in matches. I'll be keeping that bait going in to keep them fish interested, yeah? So, I mean, these fish are like, because they're thinking about spawning, they're so angry at the minute. I don't start to lift me top kit until I see that fish sort of swirl around here, and I'll get ready with the net. Nice big landing nets as well, folks, you know, sort of 18-20 inches are ideal for these size of fish. They are pretty decent fish when you catch them. I'm just seeing that swirl, so I'm going to lift my pole line and see where he is. It looks a nice fish. It looks a lovely fish. I'm just going to put a bit more pressure on, and that's the beauty of fishing heavy like we are. You know, we're not fishing like blooming 0.12 3 pound up lengths now, folks. We're on like, I think it's 9 pound mainline to like 7 or 8 pound up length, yeah? Nice big hooks as well. So again, it's just a bit wobbly, obviously. Again, pleasure fishing, folks. Just concentrate getting fishing. You don't have to feed. You know, you just, even if you've got a lake on your own, you don't have to feed. You're not sort of like trying to compete with them fish, and you know, no one's competing for them, so you don't have to keep that bait going in. But if I was in a match, 100%, I'd just keep that bait tickling in, just to keep them fish in your peg. How good is this, folks? It's so good, isn't it? Nice warm weather, great big wobbly carps. Just don't get better for me. But it does, could be on the river, couldn't it? But it's close season, folks. Right, let's concentrate on getting this in. So you can see how much elastic I've got out, and why I like to use not an overly gunned elastic, but enough sort of like pressure on the elastic that's going to get the job done. Oh, we've just got its tail in then. See how angry they are. He's wallowing now. He's not like fighting hard, he's just wallowing. Such good stamp, these fish. They're amazing. Absolutely amazing. Love them. Just having another wobble out. Come on. Come on, the fishes. So you see, I'm keeping angles on my pole. I'm not going directly above them. Come back this way. I just don't know when they're giving up. It's coming up now. Come on. Come back this way. So angry. Ugh. Just ridiculous, aren't they, folks? But they're worth it when you catch them, I tell you that. Come on, come back this way. He's going to be... Go on, go on. Not having none of it. The angriest fish in the world, these carp in here. It's just ridiculous. Sign of obviously a healthy fishery with how angry the carps are. I'm just going to give it a bit more pressure. Obviously, you get to know how much pressure you can give these fish. You know, if you're giving them too much, you'll just be ripping out of them. If you don't give them enough, obviously, they'll be getting into the reeds and all that. Yes, that's why everything needs to be balanced with your tackle. Come on, the fishes. Just can't get his blooming head up. Here we go. Come on, come on, come round. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we got him. So, at this stage here, bring the fish back to your lap first, and obviously this is where the care of the fish comes into it, because these are big blooming fish, you know what I mean? So you've got to make sure you're looking after them. So what I like to do, make sure your rig's sort of over the fish, grab the head of the landing net. What you don't want to do is grab that landing net handle down there, because I've seen it all too often where it'll snap on these big heavy fish. So make sure you bring the fish or the net back to your hand, grab the top of the landing net, and then bring that fish into your lap. Then what I like to do is trap the fish. I'm not putting loads of pressure on. I just like to trap the fish there so it can't go anywhere. And that's the beauty of these big, deep landing nets, yeah? You can do that with them. Grab the fish. He's nailed it down there. Is it disgorging? We'll get him out. No, we'll get him out. I'm not going to show you, but you can see the size of him there. Yeah, he's sort of a good, sort of like 8 or 9 pounds, something like that. So we'll get him back in the water. Wait until he's kicking. And there, no way, look at that, folks. Right, so this stage here, I've not fed for a bit, because I've been waffling, haven't I? Not like me to waffle, is it? Put a bit more bait in. Now, what you'll usually find is obviously by using stots, they'll move up. Now, this is where presentation comes into it. Presentation is absolutely massive, obviously, in all aspects of fishing. So what I want to do, see that's shot, moved up a little bit there. So I'm just going to bring that down so everything's nice and even. Now obviously through the session, I touched on it before when I was talking through the rig, I can see one cruising there. When that water starts to warm up even more, these fish will really pop up, and that's where, obviously, with how versatile this rig is, I can move them shots under me float, use it as a little bobby mugging me. So if that pellet was still on, don't think about it, folks, get it changed, and then we're straight in business again. So another 6mm pellet on. straight back in business. Nothing complicated whatsoever, but I've got to catch another one. Now, to me, that seemed pretty quick. Obviously, a fish that size seemed pretty quick. I've not got an issue slapping that way into my shadow. However, you'll have days where you won't get a bite slapping that way, so just go the opposite way, not into the shadow. It will make a big difference for you. Again, check your sections every time. Go on, what are them called, Rich? Mayflies. Sedge flies. Go on, the sedge flies. Get him off there. In fact, he can go out, he can have a bit of a journey. And then make sure you check the sections, check that section, and go to slap again. I say the wind definitely helps, so you can give it a few slaps to start with. And you see I'm holding that tight line. I want to talk you through the slapping process. Where a lot of anglers go wrong with slapping is they bring the pole out and then do a big full circle. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not as effective as, if you can imagine a clock, 12 o'clock straight above you, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Bring your pole out around 11 o'clock and then force the pole down. Yeah, and obviously likewise, if you're slapping the other way, you bring it out at 1 o'clock and slap the pole down. It's so much more effective and you just get a better noise slapping the rig over that way. Now I think he hooked himself. There's one or two there, folks, isn't there? Now I could literally just sit there without feeding and just slap. That's the beauty of carp as opposed to like F1, well, anything else but carp fishing really. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of it. Just sit there slapping the pellet, and that's when 8mm pellets come into it. You know, they really do home in onto that noise. It's so good, folks, isn't it? It's just so good. So again, once you've unshipped on that section, get some pellets in, and pink them out, and just keep that pole nice and low. Don't think this is as big, but certainly bloody no less angry. Get a few strips back. No, it's not as big. This might be an F1. There's odd F1 left in from like, oh no, it is a carp. There's odd F1 left in from a few years ago. Yeah, it's not an F1, that, folks. It's definitely not an F1. So I'm not going to feed this time because obviously we don't need to, but as I say, those of you who do fish matches, make sure you keep that bait going in. But if you don't, got it all to yourself, don't need to, just feed when you're out there, or even don't feed. Let's concentrate on getting this in. Just no reasoning with these fish at the minute. They've been so angry. Obviously, let's say spawning is next on the agenda. Come on, come on. Be a popular. We've had a mirror. Let's have a popular. Let's have a common. Go on. Is it? Oh, I can't blooming see. It might be a common. It might be a little baby common. We can see how you do big weights, obviously, match conditions, folks, and this time of year when that weather gets warm, you just can't beat. I bang on about blooming shallow fishing all the time anyway, don't I, folks? You know what I mean? But you literally can't beat shallow fishing. It's so fast, so effective, clean. You're fishing clean every time. There's no, like, I'm going to say amalgamation of bait. You like that, Rich? Like a build-up, innit, amalgamation? I think it is anyway. Is it not? Isn't that what it means? What does amalgamation mean then? Oh, I thought it meant build-up. Oh, okay, I'll shut up then, folks. But you know what I mean? There's no... A what? Accumulate, that's what I meant to say, folks, not amalgamation. Accumulation of bait. Yeah, so obviously if we went on the bottom, our float would be dancing around all over the place. Don't use plummet, folks. Yeah, don't. In fact, you know what you can use plummets for? Ledger bombs. Don't use. They're so angry, these blooming fish. You just don't need to use them at all this time of year. But as I said, make sure. No, I'm not going to say make sure you prime it first. That, again, that's for other fish. This time of year, when they are muggy, just get straight on the shallow. You know, obviously we've got an island. We could exploit that first with a method. But when they're like this, and you know. Obviously you can see how they're blooming feeding. Just get straight on them, folks. You could fish it for the full 5 hours with a match. He's a popular. He's a little popular. Lovely. So we've had one of each. Again, bring that top kit back, grab the net, wait till he rights himself, bring him up and into your lap. There's only a little babby one, but they're blooming angry, aren't they? Let's see where he's hooked. Lovely in the top lip. Come here. There we go. So smaller carp, little common, probably still like 4.5, £5 though, until he rights himself and is away. And that, folks, there's pretty much not much more to it. Obviously check your rig again, check for slime, check that your baits, you know, if it's still on, change it. Occasionally change the colour of your hook bait, you know, if you believe that makes a difference. Certainly an 8mm pellet will make a difference. But other than that, just get out and give it a go. From now on, I'm going to say it started probably last week when we got that nice weather. The carp are like, spawning's next on the agenda, so they know they need to like feed up before they go through the rituals of spawning, you know what I mean, all the heavy process and all that. So yeah, so find a lake, folks, get your shallow rigs on and go and snare a load of great big wobbly carps. As always, folks, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and that'll tell you when we're putting out these fantastic videos. Yeah!